Hi, this is Linda Shea with Drilling Contractor, and welcome to our virtual panel discussion today, sponsored by Schlumberger. The theme of our event is Beyond Remote Operations. So what does that mean? Well, we know that our industry is under tremendous pressure right now, not only to lower costs, but also to improve performance, efficiency, and reliability, all while we are still dealing with a lot of restrictions stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic and lower oil prices. So if there were companies that weren't seeing the value of investing in remote operations before 2020, I'm guessing they've changed their minds by now. If your company already had some infrastructure and workflows in place before last year to help your employees keep drilling operations going while they're working remotely, you were probably ahead of the game. But you probably also realized as time went on that if you want to make the remote operations as seamless as possible, and if you really want to maximize the value that you get out of it, you probably realize you've just explored the tip of the iceberg when it comes to remote operations. So today we're going to be hearing from one specific company, Schlumberger, about the work they're doing with remote operations. What we'll be talking about is digitally enabled, but this isn't just about automation because automation by itself is not the end goal. How can we turn the difficulties brought about by the pandemic into more of an opportunity to evolve our industry and the way we operate so that we become a more attractive industry for the next generation of employees, and at the same time improve our sustainability and lower our carbon footprint by reducing risk exposures? On another level, we'll talk about how remote operations can enable more standardization in your operations so that you can reduce your reliance on human factors, how you can build a much more scalable operation, and at the same time, drill faster. So with that, I would like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Melissa Ramirez. Melissa started with Schlumberger 14 years ago as a field engineer and has worked in operations roles, training and competency, sales and commercial, and marketing and technology. She is now Performance Live Remote Operations Manager for the Well Construction Division, and she will be providing a global perspective to our discussion today. Welcome, Melissa. And next we have Rajan Dua. Rajan has nearly 2 decades of international expertise in the upstream industry with Schlumberger. He is currently the Well Construction Division Manager for the North America Offshore Geo Unit, which encompasses Gulf of Mexico, Alaska, and Eastern Canada. He's responsible for all offshore drilling operations. And Rajan will primarily be giving us his perspective from working on the Gulf of Mexico. So Melissa and Rajan, welcome to our session today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Linda, for this interview. Thanks to the audience that has joined this session today. We're very excited to show you a little bit of what we have been able to achieve, but also how and the value that actually remote operations is providing to the oil field. I believe, for a very long time, remote operation was labeled as a people productivity initiative. But it really goes further and beyond. I think that was saying it really helped us to ensure we were able to maintain business continuity. And it also brings a lot of value to the safety of our employees, to the scalability of the operations, to the sustainability of the operations in well construction that we are performing today. And as well is the fact that it's not only about doing remote operation and removing the people from the well site. It's the fact that by doing that, we're becoming more consistent and we're delivering better wells. And this will continue to be relevant. There is no time to stop. As we will talk about it as well, this is really linked to our digital technologies as well. Our systems are evolving, our technology is evolving, the processes are fit for purpose for this remote operation model. And as we call it in Schlumberger, our Performance Live end-to-end remote operation workflow is powered by the digital technologies. So this is a really relevant matter, and I am very, very glad we're able to discuss it today.
Thank you, Linda, for the introduction, and thank you everyone who has joined this virtual panel discussion. I think Melissa touched on a lot of points there, and my objective will be to bring to you some operational perspectives and insights into how we have benefited and implemented remote operations across all our operations, and especially in deep water environment, right? So deep water is one of the most challenging environments where we drill for oil and gas. And like it said, you cannot have a bad day in deep water. The cost of operations are so high. You are in a remote location, so you have to get it right the first time. And we will look at how we have applied, implemented remote operations, and how are we doing, how the whole technology has evolved over the years, and see how we can help our customers and jointly partner with them in this new age of digital drilling.
Thank you, Melissa and Rajan. Before we get our discussion started, I want to remind all of our viewers, please do use the Q&A button on your screen to submit any questions you might have. I know both Melissa and Rajan are very eager to answer your questions and to make this session useful for you. So we do need your participation to make that happen. So please do submit your questions. I'd like to get our discussion going now. So my first question is addressed to you both. From your different perspectives, how have you seen remote operations improve over time? And what do you think has enabled that evolution?
So in reality, we started to transmit data from a very long time ago. We were transmitting data and we were monitoring that data in our remote operation centers. But we did not change the way of delivering operations to the rig. We were ensuring we were monitoring, and we were ensuring we were backing up the deployment of the job. But later, with a lot of technology that did not come from the oil field, it came for electronics, wireless, optical networking, all those technologies emerged, and that enabled us as an oil field organization as well to use them in our operation support center. Really, then our way to deliver service did change, because by then we did start to remove people from the well site. And as we have been saying, since 2006, actually, we started to remove people from the well site and perform operations remotely. However, we also realized this is not just to remove people from the well site is not what is going to enable a better service. So we developed a change in processes. We started to ensure we invested in technology, connectivity, communications technology, and also changing the way how our technology was developed. Before, our technology was developed to be operated at the well site, ensuring we had people at the well site. So even our downhole tools, we had to change the way we developed the tools to ensure we could be able to connect to them remotely. So it's a change in the full ecosystem, what has allowed us to move into this era of remote operation. And it also shows we have been ready for quite some time to do this. But to do this, we need to collaborate with the customer. We need to ensure there is a good link and a handshake to deploy this to the field. So since last year, we deployed what we call the Performance Live Digitally Connected Service, which is the brand that we give to our end-to-end workflow to deliver remote operation. This evolution, has brought significant changes over the year globally, and I'm sure Rajan as well can give the perspective on how this has evolved in the water.
Certainly, Melissa, I think you have touched upon many of the improvements that we have seen in remote operations over the years. I will reflect on one critical aspect of where we are today, and that is standardization, right? This is a common theme across the industry today, whether it is operators or service companies, rig contractors. The industry is no longer the same it was before. I mean, we cannot afford boutique arrangements, customized arrangements for every client and every rig. At the same time, we have evolved over a period of time where we have a standardized offering, and this guarantees performance assurance as well as process risk mitigation, right? So let's go a bit deeper into this. Today, we have robust competency requirements for a remote operations engineer. We have a very structured training program as well as multi-skilling programs that have evolved over a period of time. And this brings standardization and repeatability in our offering. The next step, as Melissa said, has been smart and intelligent hardware, whether it is downhole or on surface. So it is important to understand that we are no longer doing what we were doing 5 years ago in a different way. Everything has evolved. Essentially, an engineer at the well site is required to do much less. And we have moved a lot of operations that he used to do in a manner that somebody in a collaboration center in the town can handle the operations. There is much less things to do manually. And this is what has enabled the step change in remote operations today, right? And again, there is much larger collaboration that is ongoing and that is required with our customers, as well as the rig providers and the rig contractors to further improve on this process. Of course, a dependable connectivity and all the advancements we are seeing in connectivity options is what has made the remote operations of today different from what it was years ago.
Thank you, Melissa and Rajan. So, Melissa, can you explain a little bit more about how Performance Live is an evolution of remote operations?
Thank you, Linda. Because that's I think a common question we get because for us, Performance Live, as I mentioned before, is that branding that Schlumberger has used to serve our remote operation workflows as an end-to-end digital operating model. But basically, really, as what we were saying earlier, remote operation is just the tip of the iceberg. That's just little and a small part that you see, but what lies beneath really goes further and beyond. It has several components that help us to deliver a more consistent and higher performance operation. And as I said, we have developed a surface system that is now requires minimal intervention from our engineers at the well site. It's plug and play. It arrives to the well already configured, and all that is part of the Performance Lab service, as well as our 24/7 IT support. The fact that when we connect our systems, we can do pre-checks to ensure we have the right bandwidth, we have the right latency. And as well, the fact that when the tools arrive to the rig, they are already configured to be running whole. The battery handling puzzles, the fact that the tools have health analyzers, this evolution of those different systems is what is often not seen, and what is today enabled that end-to-end process, as we call it, Performance Live digital service.
Now, Rajan, can you talk about how have you seen the COVID-19 pandemic impact the way that our industry approaches remote operations over the past couple of years?
That's a very, very relevant and a very interesting question, Linda. I mean, COVID-19, it has completely changed the nature of our industry. We were a global workforce. We depend on people from all parts of the world bringing their expertise and knowledge together, especially when you talk about deep water operations. I mean, this expertise is dispersed, but they all come together. And there's a lot of travel involved, whether you talk about rig contractors, whether you talk about service companies. And now suddenly you were struck with a pandemic which restricted travel. You could not travel freely. There are logistic constraints that it put forward. And it was a complete reset for the industry, right? And you had travel bans in place, quarantine requirements reduces your productivity. You had to have people in quarantine with shelter in place. I mean, the biggest challenge us or anybody had was cruise to the well site, right? To perform the operations. The second one is how do we keep them safe? It's more travel means more exposure. So it was a big challenge, and it was very clear at the onset of that our business continuity will be challenged in several places. I'm speaking of all our customers as well as rig contractors, right? Now, we quickly recognized as that, look, we have something which was already in place, like Melissa mentioned, and which could provide a business continuity solution to our customers amidst this global travel restrictions that we have in place. And the remote operations and the performance line service, it has helped us maintain this business continuity through these unprecedented times. And we could better utilize our people. In fact, it acted as a stimulus to further the penetration and the adoption of remote operations across all walks of our industry, and especially when it comes to our operations here in Deepwater and Gulf of Mexico. So just to give you an example, in the first months, when the pandemic really hit us, March and April of 2020, we saw rapid adoption of remote operations across all the countries that we work in. And in May itself, we had a penetration of up to 60% into our global operations. So in some form or fashion, remote operations was prevalent into 60% of our operations. And just to quote some statistics, we had every month about 10,000 shifts that were handled remotely. That means we avoided 600 people from going to the well site every month. And this means lesser exposure to these personnel. This means our clients were able to continue operations and do that pretty seamlessly. I mean, we had wells being steered remotely wherever either our people were in low exposure locations or even in some cases from their without any impact on operations. And this is all, this was from our experience, the setup that we had put together over a period of time, but it was put to good test, as well as the adoption increased when COVID-19 hit. And, the benefits to our customers are immense. You're talking about lesser helicopter rides. You're talking about, again, the logistics of having these people move from different parts of the world, get to the well site. And it also brings immense greenhouse gas emission reductions, right? Again, reduce those rides and the people, rather than being in the middle of the sea, you are now in a collaboration center in town, you're in a more secure location. And the icing on the cake was that we saw performance improve across all this. So that's where, we see the adoption continue from 60%. I mean, all the clients that had adopted remote operations, we are seeing further adoption and growth of remote operations across our operations globally, and more across different services as well, right? So again, it helped the adoption, but we see now that the pandemic, and I hope so, really comes under control, this is not going to go away. I think this has just accelerated our digital journey, and autonomous drilling, etc., are all, now you see everything lining up together to really bring a step change in our performance delivery.
Thank you, Rajan, for those insights. I'm wondering if both of you can give me a sense of what your current service footprint is like.
Sure, I'll start with that, Linda. So before I talk about the footprint, I think it's important to know that regardless of where we are, it's important that we do it right. We don't want to take over the world without doing it right. And we are deploying remote operations with 0 HSE incidents. And there has not been either service quality issues attributed to the deployment of remote operation. So the first and most important, ensuring we do it right. So we are globally, we are in more than 60% of our jobs. It's important that there are areas in which we are much more advanced than that. And an example in US land, we're almost at 100% of remote operations. In Russia land, we're at 95% of remote operation. In some of our countries in the Middle East, we're at 70 to 75% of remote operation. So we see that this is growing. As Rajan was mentioning, some of the growth it came with the pandemic, but it continues in that step because the customers are seeing the benefit of it. It's not anymore just because of the business discontinuity or just because we need to become more efficient. It's because they see the benefit. And our footprint really goes everywhere. So we are drilling with remote operations in the desert, in the jungle, land, offshore, and of course now I know Rajan can discuss more on the deep water itself. But basically, we're drilling in every environment and in low and high complex operations.
So, Linda, again, in line with what Melissa mentioned, in deep water specific environment, our adoption is the same line on the same level where it is globally, which is about 60% and growing, right? Now, the degree to which we have converted or our clients have converted operations to remote varies from customer to customer. And I like to go a bit into detail by quoting an example, which we are showing on the screen here, right? So traditionally, let me take an example of our direction drilling, MWD, LWD operations. In 2014, the task that is involved with these operations used to require about 5 people in deep water as a minimum, right, to carry on these activities. With our initial implementation with our customers and the initial phases of remote operations, we brought this number down to 3 in 2017. Today, with some of our customers, and I'm talking about one of the biggest customers in Gulf of Mexico, that task is carried out by 1 person on the rig. Now, it doesn't mean it's only 1 person doing all that. Essentially, the rest of the tasks have been moved to a team that is working onshore in a collaboration center. You essentially need just 1 person, and practically that person is doing nothing. There are still some outstanding manual tasks, mandatory ones, which he is involved with, or otherwise he's there for redundancy. All the tasks are carried out by the onshore center. If in case connectivity goes down, or there is some exigency, then you have a fail-safe option. And just to share, now that we have extensively gathered some data, the chance of that loss in connectivity happening is less than 1%, right? And this is from our practical experience. So that's the change. And again, it is enabled by reducing the manual task and moving things in a smarter way to onshore operations and working with our customers and rig contractors on a proper RACI and transfer of task, etc., so that we can do it safely and at the same time improve performance. Now, the benefits again are immense. As I mentioned, we have eliminated, just for every GOM rig in particular, about 200 crew changes during the year. And that's, we quantified that. That's about 150 tons of carbon dioxide emissions that we have reduced for every rig over a period of a year, right? So again, the industry recognizes the need for sustainability. This is one additional step in that direction, besides bringing the other benefits that we have spoken about, right? So adoption has been good. It's increasing. Again, we do it with the support of our customers and the rig.
Can you get into a little more detail on why are the technologies and processes that enable remote operations so important now? And can you give us an overview of some of the new technologies that you're developing that would fit into this new remote operations ecosystem?
Sure. Thanks, Linda. I'll start, and probably Rajan, if you have something to add, please do so as well. This is very important. I think, with the market volatility in our industry, really our customers are really trying to achieve optimal efficiency gains and ensuring those gains are consistent. So this is one of the operating models that can actually provide that actually helps you to do that. Because of the processes, we become more consistent in how we deliver our jobs, and we are able to take decisions faster, but not only faster, but because we have the data in our hands. So we can take quick decisions in an optimal manner, understanding that we know what's happening at the well site, and we have all that data streaming to the same center. So um, this type of technologies really, empowers the remote operation workflows. And what it relates specifically to the drilling ecosystem, we cannot leave aside the fact that we continue to get data because we have a telemetry tool in Hall. And because of that, we are able to get accurate data. So we're also investing in a smart telemetry to ensure the data we get is with high confidence. And we're able to see the data in a quicker manner, not only for positioning, but also for formation evaluation, so that we're able to take in conjunction with the customer those decisions that are going to help them to place the well in the right place. So as I've been saying, it's an ecosystem. Smart telemetry becomes a very important part. Downhole tools, as I mentioned, as well with health analyzers, and the fact that they are pre-configured, it becomes very important. And the surface hardware and surface software is something that, in some cases, is just overlooked. And this is a very important part of what we do. So we are now able to deploy plug-and-play systems to the rig. It's really decreasing the installation time by about 70%. It's amazing the amount of time is reduced for our engineers to do that manual work, because we have evolved how our surface system is configured, as well as the fact that the surface softwares are now developed to ensure we can have those actionable insights. We can take decisions promptly, and it's smart. So it's giving us information more than our engineers scanning what's happening. That is how our team is actually able to quickly get on top of it and ensuring we deliver with better performance. And this is also available for all the collaboration center inside the remote operations. So the data, evolving that ecosystem through hardware, technology, smart telemetry, and of course, the downhole tool that also needs to evolve. So this is a little bit, Linda, of addressing that question around what are those changes in technologies that we have been investing and that are today available so that we can evolve that operating model.
Yeah, so in continuation to what Melissa said, she touched upon the software and the hardware portions of it. I'll touch upon some of the processes which have been modified, or how the processes have evolved on essentially the tasks that we do on the well site to facilitate remote operations and the synergies that we have been talking about, right? One critical operation that goes on repeatedly in drilling a well is making up the BHA. And I'll take this example to show you how we have evolved and what technologies have been brought in to really facilitate remote operations and in our line towards autonomous drilling, right? So while making up BHAs, previously all these components would be made up on the well side, programmed, configured. So you can start to visualize there were a lot of manual tasks involved, and you needed the engineers on the well site to do all that. And you have multiple runs, multiple whole sections that you drill in a well. So again, this is a labor-intensive task. Now, when we got back to the drawing board, in addition to the hardware and software modifications, a lot of these tasks were automated. And when I talk about the processes and how those involved, now when we talk about a BHA, the tools, while they are being prepared in the maintenance facility. They're already programmed, they are configured, ready to go, and being run in whole when they reach the well site. So programming, configuration, measuring tasks were integrated with our inspection processes. So a lot of those labor-intensive tasks were shifted onshore. Redundancies were removed, and this is how workflows have been identified and optimized so that we can reduce the manual task on the well site or completely eliminate them. Things like batteries, that needed to be loaded are now preloaded. Again, these are tasks that were usually done at the well site and are now done on site or in the maintenance center. The thing as making up as many components as reduces the rig time and the labor that was required on the well site. And again, we now make up as many components as possible in our workshop. For a deep water rig, typically this led to a saving of 2 to 3 hours per bottom hole assembly every time this assembly was made up. And if you have 10 of these assemblies being made on a deep water rig, that means that additional spend you have now avoided, right? So again, processes have been changed to reduce the amount of human labor required, and these have brought savings to our customers. And again, this is how we have facilitated operations besides the technology advancements that have been done.
Rajan, I wonder if you can also elaborate on the role that has to be played by both the operators and the rig contractors for this to work. I assume that collaboration is paramount to successfully transforming the work processes.
Absolutely, Linda. You hit the nail on the head. This is not something that we can do without the support and collaboration of our operators and rig contractors. It is an approach that we need. That's when we have been most successful. And again, their role is pivotal in making this a success. Again, let me take some examples. While we are, as I mentioned, reducing some of the labor-intensive tasks that are required on it, we identified that if we partner with the rig contractors, their personnel can take on some of the tasks, which will help ultimately eliminate the need for our personnel to be there. Things like breaking up the tools when you're laying down the BHA or making that up. Now, it doesn't have, what we needed to do was collaborate with them, pass on our procedures, do a joint training session so that we de-risk this entire change process, right? So that's where we need to work with the rig contractors. There are several instances where, we use them across other business lines because this is how we can work together to reduce the task and use our resources optimally. For our customers, it's only when we see adoption, buy-in, and alignment across the chain. So starting from senior management to the drilling manager, the ops engineer, the drilling engineer, superintendent or the drilling superintendent on the well site, when there is complete alignment, that's when it works best, and we deliver best in quartile wells, right? There are several stakeholders in this, and we can find 100 reasons to not make it work, right? But when we are all aligned, we have definitely proven beyond doubt that it works. We can not just eliminate risk, but also improve our performance. And again, there are several examples for those that are available, and we'd be glad to discuss on a different opportunity.
Thank you, Rajan. So Melissa, going back to you. So for those companies that have already implemented the remote operations under Performance Live, can you share with us what are some of the benefits they're seeing?
Yes, I think we've been talking about technology and how we do it. I think what's the value is the most important. At the end, we do something to deliver something, right? First of all, of course, our people, the safety of our people, as I said earlier, 0 HSE incidents, ensuring we remove them from the front line, right? We remove them from that hazardous area. It's really reducing, any type of or actually eliminating the fact that they are at the risk side. So it really reduces if they can get, in a hazardous area so that they can get injured. That's some of the things it's simple to see from actually doing remote operation. I think we've been talking about, how consistent this is. The fact that we have a talent pool of people in the collaboration center, and that it's delivering a more consistent approach to the operations. But let's talk about performance. I think it's something everyone is usually gets on the top of their heads, and it's something that probably at first was not obvious. Was not obvious to the customer. It was not obvious to the organizations or to the oil industry that performance could be a value that they will get from remote operation. So yes, we're improving in HSE. Yes, we're being more efficient. And all that together, all the changes in processes, the centralization of that decision making, the fact that the people is in the remote operations center and is seeing a lot of different wells, problems, are fixing those problems and are ensuring that learning curve happens much quicker is what is really making that, performance improvement. And to give you numbers, right? We have seen in Gulf of Mexico how performance have improved by 19%. We're delivering wells faster. The same in South America, we have been able to deliver wells faster in a 21%, by 21%. And overall, we see how by 20%, if we look at a global number, by utilizing remote operations performance live, we've been able to improve the performance. This is something, it was honestly an eye-opener to us. We knew we were, we were able to be, ahead. At first, we just really wanted to ensure there was no detrimental impact, right? And then we realized it's not even detrimental. We're just not doing the same. We're doing better. We were able to, some data analytics, we were able to filter out the other components of the well delivery. Because you might ask, well, what about the bid? Did you change the VHA? Did you introduce an RSS system? Where is this coming from? And through data analytics, we were actually able to filter all those components and to ensure we were comparing the same scenarios, same VHAs, same formations, and this really gave us these results. So I am very glad to share that with you. Overall, we see the performance improvement. We can talk about specific improvements in different areas of the world. As I said, overall, we see a 20% from the moment we switch to performance live and we maintain the consistent approach to that remote operation workflow. That performance improvement then, yes, of course, is delivering wells more efficiently. But at the end, let's talk about our footprint, right? Our carbon footprint. I think that's very relevant. We all have, we're all looking and ensuring we're doing better and we reduce our emissions. Well, this is our way. Performance live and our remote operation or workflows is actually reducing, is helping to reduce those emissions because, as I just said, we are really improving customer performance. But I cannot emphasize enough what Rajan said. This is only, we can only do this if we are aligned with our customers. And that collaboration is key. And we just want to show you the value of what we have seen. And it's matter to work hand in hand with the customers to ensure we get there.
Now, I'm also really interested in hearing about, for the companies that maybe really haven't done a lot of remote operations yet, from your experience, what do people usually think is involved in order to do remote operations? And then what is actually really involved in doing remote operations?
Yeah, Linda, I'll take that. And again, from an operational perspective, some things I commonly come across while discussing with customers. First thing is, again, it's not service providers initiative only. It needs collaboration. So it's a joint initiative. It's not something we do in isolation. The second thing is that, often there is a misconception that is the main driver. Cost is there, but the main driver is efficiency and productivity, right? We have seen significant productivity increases through remote operations, and once that comes in front of our customers, I think we will see an increase in adoption. There is also a misconception that are we making our engineer, whoever is at the well site, do more? I mean, are we putting more hardships on our engineers? On the contrary, as I mentioned, the way we have modified the processes and enabled it through hardware and software advancements, the engineer at the well site is actually required to do less. The key is that most of the tasks are done by the collaboration center and the engineers there in town. And the engineer on the well site is actually required only in case of contingencies or some remaining manual tasks. And if you look at the state of our industry, this has really helped improve the work-life balance across the industry for our engineers and operators, right? We are challenged in the industry today to attract the best talent. And this is a way where we are more aligned into what the younger generation is seeking today. I mean, work-life balance has been a traditional problem in the oil industry. And I think we are striking the right chord with the younger population today to attract them to this industry, which is very important and something very close to my heart, right? Thirdly, there is some critics say that, are we introducing more risk into our operations? I feel more comfortable when there is somebody who I know is in front of me taking charge of my operations. But again, as Melissa mentioned, progressively we have seen performance improvement. If you take away the aspect of human interventions from your operations, we have seen better procedural adherence and kind of eliminated such incidents, and that has resulted in reduced risk and better performance, right? Again, those are certain operational things which I feel it was important to bring to this panel, which is sometimes different from some things we have heard from our critics, right? So I just wanted to bring that forward. Melissa, I don't know if you have some more points on to highlight in this.
No, Rajan, you covered very well. I think Linda asked, what is it that that is involved? What is it that is really not? And what is it that it needs to be there is, of course, connectivity, right? I mean, we have been talking, about it for this half an hour or so, and connectivity needs to be there, right? And what we are doing our biggest efforts to ensure is robust. We're also our new generation of website connectivity as well has a smart network selection, so you can connect different sources to the system to ensure we get the best of that connectivity. It's smart, so it does it without human interaction or human selection. So there are things we're doing to improve this, and depending on where we deploy, in some cases the customer provides the connectivity, and in others we do. But that is part of the discussion and the conversation and the agreement. How is it that we're going to deploy this, and who is in the best place to provide connectivity in this sense, right? I think that's the only thing I wanted to add to your to your comment, Rajan.
Thank you both for your thoughtful answers. I'd like to go ahead and take up some of the audience questions now. Looks like the first one, this gentleman saying that directional drilling at LWD for remote operations is straightforward, but what is Schlumberger doing for their other services like mud, cement at the rig? He says that one challenge from the operator side is the scalability to deploy this method across all of their operations globally. Which one of you have any comments?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for that question. It's actually great to see that there is interest beyond measurements and drilling. So let me start with surface logging. I know the question is about cementing and drilling fluids, but let me start with surface logging because That is something we have deployed already. We're doing it in Gulf of Mexico, in some areas, and in the Middle East, in Asia as well, in North Sea, and so on. So we are doing right now surface logging remote operation. It's a service that we have centralized in our remote operation center. They are co-located with the measurements and drilling remote operation engineers. It's, as I said, it's something we do in collaboration with the customer, and something we deploy. We ensure we have the connectivity, we have the technology, and we are able to do the job remotely. Of course, there are some manual tasks that will remain at the well site, and we will need to continue to use the people at the well site, for example, catching and other activities. But there are parts of the workflow that are fully analytical, and that today we do from the Performance Lab Center. Now, let me evolve on the other areas of well construction. You mentioned about drilling fluids. With drilling fluids, we have been able to do this. Today in North Sea, we have about 8 to 9 rigs in which we perform remote operations for drilling fluids operations. And we are ensuring we do this through the utilization of one of the technologies well construction have deployed, which is Rio Profiler. The Rio Profiler is an automated system to ensure we can measure the mud properties by the system and not by the human. This means the system is able to come up with those mud properties for the rheology profile, for viscosity and density. As you know, these are one of the tests that are, take the longest times from our drilling fluids specialists, and therefore this one has become really a game changer. We have been able to decrease the people at the well site through the utilization of this system that is not only enable us to reduce people, but it's also providing to the customer higher amount of data, because now we are able to take more samples quicker and provide responses quicker. So in your hands, you also get higher sample rates for your model. And so it's evolving. It's something we're also looking to take to other geographies. We have deployed this system in other geographies as well. And I think the fact that the question came up, it's a very good sign that we are opening our minds to do more than that. From the cementing point of view, we're also evolving into new technologies, very focused on the automation. This is more focused on the automation of our cementing units to ensure the sequences for mixing, pumping are automated. So there is less human interaction with all those systems that we have. Overall, technology is evolving, and they will all be executed from the Performance Lab or our remote operations center. So we are in that way, and I will be really glad to discuss that with any of the panelists that or the persons that have joined the meeting and that would like to contact me directly to discuss this further.
The addendum to that question was to go further, what technology that is cost effective can be deployed in order to go further? He says automated mud properties or sample catching and analysis.
The fundamental is to analyze what are the manual tasks, and you move as many manual tasks to automated processes. So it is a common theme across all well construction activities, right? So, and the cost effectiveness comes by, again, reducing people on site, more and better utilization of your personnel in the collaboration center. Because guess what, when you have a crew which is on the well site, they are practically, you're drilling for maybe 8 days out of the full month. So by moving people in a collaboration center, you're able to better utilize and make more productive use of their time. So that brings the cost efficiencies. Again, for me, one of the biggest cost drivers is failures or NPT. And if you're improving your performance and eliminating failures or risk, that automatically brings cost saving initiatives. So that would be my perspective on the cost effectiveness of deploying remote operations. And we have to look with whatever application that comes ahead of us, how we can move some of the tasks and go remote, right? Melissa, you have anything to add there?
Yeah, is that right? Is the value? Is showing us that we can reduce, basically avoid any HSC events, improve service quality, and improve performance. And that really switches the conversation to what's the value and the benefit more than what is the cost associated. I think is really towards the benefit that this is bringing is much higher to any costs we might have with this with the introduction of the operating model.
I have another question. To underscore Rajan's point, standardization is a huge issue in the industry, especially more so now with slimmer margins and supply chain disruptions. So what is Schlumberger doing to increase transparency around the requirements for products and services needed to support remote operations in the future? And is this something for the standards bodies to dictate?
That's a very good and a deep question. I'll try my best to answer this to the best of my ability. Now, standard bodies involved, or a certified procedure. I think I'll leave that to Melissa to comment on that. But as mentioned, standardization is the key. Earlier, when us as service providers, customers embarked upon remote operations, we looked at every single application and catered to that. We have evolved over a period of time wherein the offering is good, and this helps us to replicate. There is burst processes involved, RACIs involved, and we can discuss with our customers and implement it very dependably, right? So, which means there's in terms of procedural adherence. There is assurance that we are not reducing or introducing more risk into the process. So that's where what we have today, whether it is for directional drilling or with what Melissa mentioned earlier, multi-skilling our cementers and fluids engineers, or developing technology on the fluid side so that we can use that technology and reduce the human intervention or effort required on the well side. It has a very standardized approach to it so that, again, we can replicate it globally or in different environments, whether it is land, offshore, deep water. So that has been our learnings over a period of time. And as a client, you can depend on the solution which is being offered to you, because there's a lot of data, lessons learned that has been incorporated in bringing forward that learning. From our industry, again, standardization perspective, whether to get that certified from an industry body, that's an interesting aspect. Melissa, I don't know if you have any insights there that you could share.
I think, it's a good question, because overall remote operation is not something that today is a standard globally. Each company, each customer, each service company might address remote operation in a different way. It is not measured in the same way. It is not deployed in the same way, and we all have different technologies to basically ensure the deployment goes well. So as standardization, we look more this standardization from the execution point of view. We are standardizing how we execute the jobs. Globally, it might be, it is a different conversation. I see broadly, the remote operation term is broadly used, not only for the execution of the job, but for data services or for servers deployment. The remote operation term is very widely used today. So globally, the standardization, it is not as simple as it's not simple, as Rajan said. It's a quite deep subject to cover, and it goes beyond us. But as a company, we are standardizing how we do it, and in the standardization and repetibility of how we do it, together with the customer, we see the consistency and we see the value.
So next questions regarding ESG. Where is the internal social benefit of performance live for your field personnel if, because of remote operations, they are less utilized overall?
So go ahead, Melissa. I can see you.
No, I really like this question because it's a workforce question, right? It's very close to us. Our people is the best talent we have. And if you see in this workflows that we're talking about, yes, we talk about technology, but then one of the main things is that talent, that pool of people that we have in our centers, right? And first of all, from the workforce point of view, we are looking at the scalability, right? We're looking at the fact that we are now we're growing. I mean, last year was one of the worst years, right, for the oil industry and overall for the world. And now it's a matter of growing. So to grow quicker, to get with this upturn, remote operation, performance laboratory is going to be the way, so that we can, quickly take on those jobs that are coming and ensure we do it right. Ensuring it happens with the biggest experts we have, which are in the remote operations center. About the ESG part of it, remember, when we don't send them to the rig, we are reducing transportation, we are reducing accommodation, and although, of course, they are working in our facilities, the production of CO2 emissions in an office regular facility is much smaller than in an offshore facility, right? Produce 1 kilowatt hour in an offshore or land location, it takes much more CO2 emissions than in an office or home location. So it's a combination of the opportunities we will be able to provide to our workforce, which we will continue to have, we will continue to get, and we will now bring them into a career development experience through the remote operations center. We see this as a promotion, actually. They come to the remote operation center because they are the best, because they have enough experience to cover all those jobs. And as I said, on the ESG side, we are, through efficiencies and through ensuring they are in an office environment, we are reducing those CO2 emissions.
Yeah, so, I'll just reiterate something I said earlier, and I think that is relevant to this question. Through remote operations, we see more productivity, or better productivity from our personnel, which is good for them. I mean, many of us on this call have gone through several industry downturns and upturns. I think this gives us a more sustainable model. And, ultimately, I think the biggest gain for us and the industry as a whole is better work-life balance for our people. Whoever is coming into this workforce new can relate more. I think it provides them a better opportunity for work-life balance. And I think this will go a long way in attracting more talent and better talent into our industry. And again, I see it as keeping our industry afloat. I mean, it helps in cost optimization, performance improvement. All these leads to better sustainability gains and performances. So all in all, it's making our industry more sustainable. It's going to make work-life balance, the environment more conducive for work-life balance. And hence, I see both industry and our professionals gain from this.
Thank you, Melissa and Rajan. Unfortunately, it looks like we are running out of time on our session today. So with that, I would like to again thank our sponsor, Schlumberger, our panelists, Melissa and Rajan. Thank you so much for your insights and sharing all that great information for people, wanting to implement remote operations. And I'd also like to thank our viewers. I hope you are leaving this event with some new perspectives on how to approach remote operations for the future. So thank you, and I hope to see you at our next virtual panel discussion. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Linda.